Welcome to today's apprenticeship talk with the STEM Hub. As you might know, it's National Apprenticeship Week, and to celebrate, we've got a week long of live talks from different STEM ambassadors across the Southeast, looking at the different type of apprenticeships they actually have taken. You might have heard of National Apprenticeship before, and what it is, it's a week-long celebration of apprenticeships will shine a light on the amazing work being done by employers and apprentices across the country. And today we are joined by Billie, who works at BAE Systems. So I'll hand over to you, Billie. Thanks so much for taking part.
Hi, yes, so good afternoon, everyone. I hope everyone's well. As James said, my name is Billie, and today I'll be talking a little bit about my journey and the path to where I am today through an apprenticeship. So, as I just said, my name is Billie, and I'm a hardware engineering technician. I completed a 3-year apprenticeship scheme at BAE Systems in Rochester, in which I spent my first year in training, where I learned the practical and theoretical skills needed before coming on site to BAE Systems. The second year of the apprenticeship, I then spent rotating around different departments, so I really got sort of a round view of each discipline within the engineering and the operations departments, and as well as how they work together towards achieving the same goal. Then in my third year, I applied to the department I enjoyed the most, which for me was hardware engineering. Through my apprenticeship, the sort of STEM outreach work I did and my work on site at BAE Systems, I was humbled to have been named one of the top 50 women in engineering by the Women's Engineering Society, which is, I'm somewhere in that picture, at that top picture there. And then later on in the year, I was then awarded one of the top 100 most influential women in engineering, and that was by the Financial Times and Inclusive Boards. And then just to go into a bit of my background pre-apprenticeship, so unfortunately you can't see me today, but I have included a big photo of myself there, so you know what I look like. But pre-apprenticeship, I completed my GCSEs and I also did A-levels at school in Canterbury, and I'd always planned to go to university. There wasn't really any other option in my eyes when I was at school. Then as part of my push to build up my work experience portfolio in sixth form and kind of figure out what I really wanted to do, I attended the Engineering Taster Week at BAE Systems in Rochester, which was a week long of engineering projects and challenges. And when I was on site at BAE Systems, I had the opportunity to see some of the products firsthand, as well as have a go on their flight simulator, which was really cool. But it was here that I found out about BAE Systems apprenticeship opportunities. Next slide. The photo on the top right there shows the Rochester site, where under normal circumstances I'd be working, but I am now fortunate enough to be able to work from home around sort of 90% of the time. But BAE Systems in Rochester is part of the company's electronic systems sector, which is headquartered in the US. And at Rochester alone, more than 1,500 people are employed, which includes engineers and technicians, obviously management, but graduates and apprentices as well. Just a point I've added there as well, the average length of service at Rochester is 18 years, which I think, in my opinion, shows that people really do enjoy working here and within engineering, and that, so they stay longer. And the products that we produce at Rochester include a range of avionic equipment across a number of different sectors, but I will go into a little bit more about a couple of them. So you can see 5 photos there. These are all products that we make at Rochester site. Just to pick out a couple, Headup Displays, which is that left photo, provide the information on the pilot's instruments as well as mission critical information, i.e. threats, targets, friend or foe identifications. So basically it lets you spot the bad guys. The pilot can be flying the aircraft and reacting to this information rather than looking down at the instruments that would normally be in the cockpit in front of them, and therefore increasing what we call the eyes out term, which means they can be looking straight out, which is obviously much safer when flying at fast speeds. We have a long history of HUDs, head-up displays at Rochester, and in fact the first one was designed here. And then another one, the hybrid electric buses. Our hybrid drive system is now used on the London Route Master and in different transport hubs around the world. It runs with a battery pack and electric motor alongside the diesel engine, which increases its efficiency, and there's now a large European market for this. So we're also looking into developing this technology into agriculture and moving into marine and rail sectors as well. So that cycle there is a little bit just about the main disciplines on site at Rochester. Just to quickly brush over them, hardware engineers apply the technical knowledge, they come up with the physical product or solution, they develop the new concept. So I, for example, now work with circuit boards. Software engineers, they design, code, integrate and test all the software that's used on the hardware that's been developed. Mechanical engineers deal with the physical capabilities of products, from materials to design, manufacture and maintenance, as well as 3D design and workshops, things like that. Systems engineers then sort of oversee all the disciplines and work in making each of the parts that I've just explained work together. When a change in hardware results in a change of software, for example, it's managed by a systems engineer who has an understanding of the whole concept. But at this point, you might be wondering, what does an engineer actually do? But before I answer that, I'd like to ask you, what do you picture when you think of an engineer? Is it something like this guy, oiled up working on an engine? Or this guy with a hard hat on a construction site? So yes, of course, they are both engineers, but part of why I'm here today is to sort of prove that engineering is accessible to anyone with an interest in STEM, whether you're male or female, and you can follow a number of different paths, including apprenticeships and or university to get there. And then just a quote on the next slide. Engineering really is a career offering variety, creativity, and great opportunities. If you're creative, see things differently, want to travel and put your stamp on the world, it could be the right path for you. Now, there are a number of different ways of getting into engineering. This includes apprenticeships, or college A-levels and university that will all direct you into the engineering field of work. But as it's National Apprenticeship Week, I want to talk to you today more about apprenticeships, which is also the route I took. Apprenticeships allow you the opportunity to earn money, combining on-the-job training with study, and they can open doors to a wide range of engineering jobs. They can be taken at different levels, as you can see, intermediate, higher, advanced and degree. Generally, to do an apprenticeship, you'll need a minimum of 5 GCSEs or equivalent, including English and maths, and often a subject related to the particular apprenticeship you're applying to. Often at grades 4 to 9 due to competitive competition for places. And at BAE Systems, for our engineering apprenticeships, we require 5 GCSEs graded 4 to 9 as well, plus a science or technology subject. But moving on, there are a number of subjects that you can do apprenticeships in, not just engineering. I've listed a few here that I've just found online. So that includes accounting, beauty therapy, digital technology, engineering, of course, human resources. But there are so many different subjects now that you can do apprenticeships in. And at BAE Systems, with over 50 different apprenticeship programs, but across engineering and others, I think there'll definitely be something that will inspire you. As you can see, I've listed some on the screen, but these aren't even a fifth of the opportunities available. And just to top it all off, BAE Systems were named Macro Apprentice Employer of the Year this year at the National Apprenticeship Awards. Now on the next slide, I've listed some of the benefits of an apprenticeship in my opinion. As you can, I've highlighted some of them. They're my favourite ones. Of course, a big one for me was getting paid to learn. Throughout school, I'd always worked sort of part-time, and money was always a great motivator for me. And the apprenticeship scheme combined the two. Not only this, I think the on-the-job training was a great way to learn. I'm quite a visual learner, and I massively benefit my learning by actively doing a task, sort of learning through doing, rather than entirely learning in a classroom environment. As I find it means I can pick things up more quickly, it means I remember them, I remember how to do things more, and it's just more interesting when you can try things out for yourself too sometimes. In my experience, the constant support from the workplace really excelled my learning, and it's especially cool, I think, to know that I've learned a lot of my skills firsthand from experts in their field right from day one of my apprenticeship. Another one I've highlighted there on the bottom is the NUS membership and discounts. That was a really great one, because you get discounts at most shops. I don't think there are many that I found you couldn't get a student discount on. So if any of this has been of interest to you, and if you're 16 or older, if you just finished your GCSEs, applications are open at the moment, and they will be until the 28th of February, so you still have time to look. I spoke about the minimum requirements, and you can see them on the screen now, but please don't feel put off if you feel like you aren't qualified enough or don't know enough of the intricacies of our products, because the real benefit of an apprenticeship is that you'll quickly learn everything you need to know and be supported throughout. And if you do know lots already, then that's just a bonus. But before I finish, I do want to say, for those of you who might be in a similar position to me when I was in your age, that not knowing what you want to do right now is okay. Knowing what you don't want to do is often as important as knowing what you do want to do. And it really can take time to figure out what you want to do, but this is the perfect time now to gain experience, and when you find something you like, you can then come up with plans from there. Doing work experience, attending events like today, and speaking to people in different fields are all great ways of finding out more information, like is it the type of industry where you need to get a degree to get ahead, or is it the type of industry where you can continue to work whilst pursuing further qualifications like an apprenticeship. But yes, so on that note, thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. I've sort of whizzed through all of that, but I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any. Yeah, thanks again.
Thank you, Billie. We'll just look through the questions now and send them your way.
Thank you.
So, are there any degree apprenticeships with BAE Systems? So, are there any degree apprenticeships? Sorry.
There are. I don't know them off the top of my head, but it's all online. I included a link, I think, on the applications page, sort of on the careers, under the careers tab. But yeah, BAE Systems do offer degree apprenticeships, and even with our technical apprenticeship, like I did, there's the opportunity to continue with a degree after that as well, if that's the route you decide to take. And it's the route I'm doing at the moment. I'm doing a part-time degree now, fully funded by the company, which is win-win in my eyes.
Yeah. We've had a what's the yearly salary? We've had a bit of a financial question though. It's up to you how you feel about that question.
It does vary, and it's definitely competitive. I don't know, to be honest, off the top of my head, what it specifically is now. I do know that it's competitive, and it increases sort of 6 monthly throughout the apprenticeship. At Rochester, once you then roll off the apprenticeship, once you've done your 3 years, you then join, or you can choose to, and I think most people do because it's a great scheme, join what is called the Apprentice to Engineer scheme. And within those 2 years, you are set targets by your manager, and depending on how well you meet those targets, you get pay increases then as well. So each 6 months at BAE Systems Rochester, you get the opportunity to get a £2,000 pay rise every 6 months for those 2 years while you're on that scheme.
Wonderful. Someone has asked for some interview advice as they have applied for engineering apprenticeship with BAE at the Borough site. Is there any advice you could give me if I am successful to the interview stage? I am 16.
I think show your passion, just be yourself really. I think if you're passionate about engineering and STEM and you have a willingness to learn, I think that's a really, really big thing for doing an apprenticeship, is just showing a willingness to learn, because you'll be learning throughout, and just in engineering as a sector, and no matter what level you're at, you'll be learning throughout because it's a constantly changing and developing sector. So yeah, be yourself, but show your willingness to learn, as I said, your passion, and ask lots of questions. They all like that. Lots of questions, yeah.
And we've got another question here. What hardware do you make?
So that the topics that I spoke about halfway through, I went into different products that we make. So the Headup Displays and head-mounted displays. But within hardware engineering, what I do specifically, because at Rochester we are the electronic systems site, I do sort of like circuit boards and circuit design and things like that, which I can't go into the specifics of because it's all top secret.
Well, they sounded really interesting, looking into them. Someone say, we've got two questions actually, saying the same thing. What did you do at A-levels?
At A-levels I did maths, physics and biology, which are obviously STEM heavy, but for the apprenticeship you don't need to have A-levels. At the time they were just subjects I was most interested in, and they were really hard. But as I sort of touched on, even up until sixth form, I thought I was going to go to uni and to pursue an engineering degree. I'm sure a lot of you know you'll need sort of STEM heavy subjects. So because that was the path I was going to take, they were the subjects I took. But I don't regret it at all. But again, as I said, for the apprenticeship, the advanced apprenticeship, you don't need to have done A-levels.
Wonderful. So we've got a question. What qualification have you completed, or are you completed with BAE Systems? But I think you might have just answered that.
So the apprenticeship I did was the level 3 advanced apprenticeship in electrical electronic engineering. So when I rolled out of that, then I was then electronic technician. But because I work in hardware, I'm a hardware engineering technician. And then now I'll be pursuing a part-time degree with the company. I'll be doing that in electronic engineering as well, which is my choice. There are options to do other degrees. I think you can sort of go a bit more broad. I know a couple of people have done the engineering management degree, if that's a path that you'd feel like you'd like to take as well. But for me personally, I did the electrical apprenticeship and going to do the electrical electronic degree as well.
Perfect. We've got an opinion question on what is your opinion on design engineering?
I think it's really interesting. Design engineering, I think, encompasses a lot of different elements. So we don't have sort of design engineers by job title at BAE Systems. But I guess if you're sort of referring to circuit design engineering, I think it's really, really interesting. And I think it's, as I sort of touched on before, it's one that is always changing as technology improves and increases. And it's just, yeah, it's an ever-changing job role, which I think is really exciting.
Perfect. I've got a question saying, would I be able to do an apprenticeship whilst at sixth form? And another, what year do we need to apply for a degree apprenticeship?
So you wouldn't do an apprenticeship alongside sixth form. The apprenticeship would sort of be in place of sixth form, but it gives you a qualification that is the same level as A-levels. It's sort of equivalent. So if you were to apply to an apprenticeship straight after completing your GCSEs, you'd do that full time rather than A-levels or whatever you choose to do at sixth form. But you do 1 day a week at a college, again based on my experience at Rochester, where you'll study for those qualifications, and then that's all backed up by the other 4 days a week that you spend on site, sort of doing the real work behind the qualification that you're doing. And then the degree apprenticeship question, I believe that you apply to that after A-levels, but I'm not sure. But as I said, all the information will be on the website, the BAE Systems.com/careers, and then you'll find information about degree apprenticeships there as well.
Oh, I've got a really good question. What are the key skills BAE look for in an applicant?
Oh. Again, I've said this earlier, I'd say the willingness to learn. I think a general sort of passion for engineering or STEM is really good. A lot of people sort of overlook soft skills, but soft skills are really, really great to have to talk about as well. Soft skills being sort of applying your hobbies. For example, off the top of my head, football demonstrates teamwork, demonstrates responsibility. But again, for an apprenticeship, willingness to learn, passion. I think just general openness to change, because as I said, engineering as a sector is always changing.
Perfect. And so kind of in relation to that question, what they're looking for in skills, what is the application process like?
I think it's pretty easy. I remember at the time when I was applying, sort of over stressing about it, I think. But again, there's all the information is online, but I think you apply and you answer a few questions, you upload your qualifications, and from there, as the application is now finished the 28th of February, from there I think you hear back around May sort of time, and that's when you'll then get called for an interview. Generally, of course, you'll be invited on site for an interview and you'll meet a few people and get to go on in the flight simulator and have a look at a few things. But if nothing's changed by May, it looks like they'll be virtual again, as they were in 2020, and it's all done online, which could make things easier if that's just someone that prefers that. But it's not something to stress about, but I do remember feeling stressed, but it's pretty easy and it's smooth running. It's nothing to worry about.
We've got a follow-up question for that. How long, if you apply for an apprenticeship, how long does it take for BAE to respond to an application?
How long does it take for BAE, sorry?
To respond to, if you applied for an apprenticeship with BAE, how long does it take? What's the process like in terms of timescale?
So again, you'll apply, it closes at the end of February. I think you hear back around May time, and then in a couple of months after that, you'll you're invited to interviews in May time, and then you'll hear back a couple of months after that with plan to start in September, as the academic year sort of thing would start. So I think it's about 6 months in total. That feels like ages when you're doing it because you're waiting to hear back. But I think it goes quite quickly. So if you apply by February, you should hear back by May.
And in terms of your experience with your apprenticeship, with BAE Systems, do they give you a job at the end of it guaranteed, or do you have to apply for new roles?
I don't think it's 100% guaranteed, as with every job, but assuming you complete your qualifications and you do well and you have a good work ethic, you've pretty much got a guaranteed job at the end of it. So at the end of the second year, I applied to my department of choice, and the way that worked was like a job interview. I applied to my top 3 departments, which for me were hardware engineering, the qualification test centre, because that was really exciting as well, and then an operations on the shop floor job as well. But I was fortunate enough to be accepted into hardware engineering. But if you don't get your first choice, you'll of course interview for your second and your third choice. And there's so many jobs available on site that you're more than likely to get a job at the end of it. Like, as I said, assuming if you work hard, you show a willingness to learn, you complete your qualification. The company are really, really supportive throughout, so it's nothing to worry about. There's nothing to say that you wouldn't get a job at the end of it.
No, thank you for that.
There was one question I wanted to ask from somebody. How is the social life when doing an apprenticeship compared to uni?
Oh, I couldn't compare from personal experience because I didn't go to uni. I guess you kind of make your own social life as an apprentice. For example, you don't have a freshers week and things like that. But I never felt like I lacked that side of things. As an apprentice group, because you're working with each other sort of 5 days a week, especially for that first year, you become such a tight-knit group that I'm still best friends with all of my apprenticeship cohort. So I think you make your own social life. We often went out, and not only that, the company always organised social events as well. Obviously, when we were allowed to, pre-COVID. But you get involved in social events with the company as well, and that helps you socialise with others as well, other engineers and technicians around the site.
It's what you make of the experience, isn't it, I guess?
Exactly. But you get a sort of a £25 allowance around Christmas time to go out for a meal with your teams, or so again, it can be really social, and as you said, you make the most of it. Wonderful.
And somebody said they hate hands-on practical work. Are BAE apprenticeships not for me then?
I spoke from an engineering perspective, which the apprenticeship itself is quite hands-on, but as I went through the list, there are finance apprenticeships, if that's something you'd be interested in, commercial, procurement, that all work with engineering but are less of the hands-on practical side of things. But not only that, not all engineering is really hands-on and practical at the moment. As I said, I'm sort of in the components side of things, and I use a lot of softwares all on the computer for that. The apprenticeship itself does include a fair amount of hands-on work, but that's to give you that round engineering skill set. But it's not necessary, you don't necessarily have to pursue that path.
Wonderful.
So it's really varied, yeah.
I'll go with one last question now because I'm aware of the time, and that is, how is the workload of an apprenticeship? So what's your workload like?
It was manageable. I mean, it wasn't super easy. Obviously, as you're doing a qualification alongside sort of full-time work, there is definitely an element, you do have to sort of manage your time well, but as I've said lots of time, the company are so supportive in giving you time within work to complete assignments. You're literally surrounded by experts in their fields. So if you struggle with anything, there are hundreds of people that can help you. Not even an exaggeration. So you do have to manage your time well, but it's definitely manageable. And I didn't struggle at all. It's just about not being afraid sort of to let people know when you have other things you need to be doing and when you might need help or support.
Perfect. So that wraps up all our questions and for today. Thank you so much, Billie, for coming today, and thank you everyone who sent in questions. We've had lots of inquisitive people today. So yeah, just like to thank everyone, especially Billie, for joining us.
No, thank you.
And regarding the rest of Apprenticeship Week, we've got some pre-recorded talks in between our live talks, which can be accessed on our website, and then the sign-ups can also be accessed on our website. If you do have any burning questions after today, you can email askanambassador@canterbury.ac.uk, which hopefully, Billie, you'd be happy for us to forward on to you to answer if they haven't been able to be answered today.
Yeah, definitely.
Perfect. So yeah, please come along to the rest of our Apprenticeship Week talks and email us if you've got any questions.